The old man's 40-year secret hidden by the sea. A moral story. For 40 years, Malcolm stared at the storm, guarding a coastline and a secret. He didn't know which one was more dangerous. Malcolm lived a life measured by the methodical rotation of the light and the roar of the Pacific. His lighthouse, perched on the rugged cliffs of the northern coast, was his sanctuary and his prison. He was the last of his kind, a single curator of a fading maritime ritual. 40 years ago, in the late summer of '85, a small fishing trawler, the Mariner, went down in a sudden, violent storm. The official report called it an act of God. Malcolm knew better. He was new, young, and terrified of the responsibility. On that night, his training officer, Frank, was drunk in the supply room. A critical piece of equipment, the foghorn's backup power, was dead. Frank had warned him never to tell anyone. They both would be ruined. When the Mariner signaled for help, Malcolm had 2 minutes to choose: expose Frank and risk his own career in the fallout, or follow Frank's instruction to ignore the panic signal and wait for the main light to cycle around. He waited. The Mariner struck a reef moments later. Only one body was ever recovered. Since that night, Malcolm wrote a letter every year to the widow of the recovered fisherman, apologizing, but never signing it, never sending it. It was his private purgatory. The letters filled a thick, leather-bound journal. This year, a journalist named Clara arrived. She was documenting the history of the old lighthouses for a national paper. She was sharp, polite, and noticed everything. "It must be a life of profound honesty," Claire remarked one evening, watching the beams slice through the fog. "There's no hiding from the light here." Malcolm felt the truth scrape against his throat. "There are always shadows," he mumbled. Clara smiled knowingly. "A man who lives so long in the light usually has the deepest shadow. Is there anything you've kept here that you should have let go of?" She hadn't asked about the shipwreck. She had asked about him. The next day, Clara discovered the journal in Malcolm's study. She didn't read it. She simply placed a note on top of the stack of unsent letters. The weight of an unsaid truth is always heavier than the consequence of courage. Malcolm watched her leave the cliffside in her small rental car, the sea foam spraying her windshield. He went inside, picked up the journal, and read Clara's note. He sat at his desk, the beam sweeping overhead, illuminating his face every 10 seconds. The moment was upon him. He could finally mail the letters, exposing the truth. Frank, who was long retired, and himself. He could embrace the destruction of his reputation. Instead, Malcolm picked up the journal and walked to the hearth. He struck a match. He watched 40 years of fear and self-loathing curl and turn to ash. When the last ember died, he realized the profound twist. His truth wasn't a static piece of paper to be mailed. His truth was a choice made now. The apology wasn't for the widow who had moved on decades ago. It was for the young man, Malcolm, who sacrificed his soul for a job. He walked to the window. The light rotated, sweeping over the turbulent water. He was still the keeper of the coast, but he was no longer the keeper of the secret. That night, he recorded the foghorn test in the official log as operational, full backup power installed. Moral of the story: courage is not the dramatic revelation of a past mistake, but the decision to finally live honestly in the present. You cannot mail an old apology. You must become the change you owe the world.